Good morning, Ian. How's it going?
Pretty good, Renny.
Good. How's life?
Pretty good, man. Just hung over after that drinking game last night watching the debate.
Oh, man. And I hate to go into politics, but wow. I mean,
Right?
it was like, I just sat there at the end and I was like, yeah. I mean,
Definitely entertaining.
well, I think that tells you, though, where our society is, because doesn't society kind of act like that?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, seriously, go into our own industry and look at what happens on the forums and member areas and stuff like that. People conduct themselves just like that. They're just big babies.
Yeah.
Kind of what I was thinking. I thought it was like a live Facebook feed.
Yeah. Geez, not ours though, not ours. But
That's why, yeah, that's why I think these kinds of things are good for the industry, right? You can see people have normal conversations.
That's exactly it.
And act nice.
Yeah,
I can tell you one thing, you have way more impact on my life than the president. So that's one thing that.
Well, thank you. And likewise, I'm reading your book that you gave me. I'll send it back, and I've got a couple I'm going to take and I'm going to hand deliver to you because I'm going to come down to see you next.
Yeah.
I've read a couple new ones, but no, it's, the impact you've had, every time there's things that you've said to me. And I think this is what's cool about open-minded people that have buried their egos. I mean, a lot of people, you and I are very assertive. Probably, maybe, I can't speak of you. You've never come across cocky at all. But I'm sure there's people, there's a lot of people that talk shit on me.
Yeah.
And that's great. I love it. You're talking about me. You know what I'm saying? But here's the deal is that we've learned, guys like you and me, Chris, people around us, there's guys that I meet that other people get my ear and they're like, hey, this guy's such and such. And you kind of believe it. Then you meet him and you're like, what are they talking about? That dude's like, the greatest in the world, And so I'll be honest I had somebody talking shit from about Paul from Chemical Guys.
Yep.
And it turns out that the same dude had Paul's ear and was talking shit about me to Paul. And then Paul and I met and we're like, where have we been our whole lives? We got along really well and we liked each other, a lot of respect, dig what he's done. And so it's the same with you, I've always admired you from far because look at you're cute, but at least a smile, $1 million smile. But it is, man. I hate to get back into politics, but what can we take away? We're going a whole different direction, by the way.
Well, here's what I think, and it's one thing that which is a bummer about COVID and missing all these events where, people come together and meet face to face, right? So there's definitely something missing when everyone's interacting over the internet, that personal factor,
Absolutely. So what can we take away from last night that we can learn from? Okay, presidential debate, two of the most powerful men in the world. And Wallace trying to, well, first off, he sucked Biden's pee-pee. Real, I hate that. If you're going to, just come out and I would have more respect for him if he came out and said, Mr. President, you're not my guy. I don't like you. So I'm going to play a little favoritism. Yeah. I actually liked it, if he would have just came out and said that. But what can we take away from our industry on how we conduct ourselves and how to not look like that? Because look at detailing's already got some black eyes.
Yeah.
We're coming out of kind of the dark ages of detailing, if you would. So what can we take away was what I was asking myself last, not just in our industry, but in small business is, dude, stay patient and don't try to trump each other. I hate, no pun intended, but don't just keep calm. I just didn't seem like either one of those guys, although I think Trump I think that was his plan out of the get-go.
Yeah.
Was to get him riled up. But what can we, my biggest thing, my takeaway was, damn, man, hey, when I'm talking to people, listen, shut your mouth and listen, and then come back with counter them, because Biden didn't answer a lot of direct questions. Trump didn't answer. There's a couple direct ones that he never got to. How many times in conversations do we just not answer what the people are asking us?
Well, I tell you, I do it all the time. It's something that I self-reflect on often. you even just with, I like to debate, right? So
You do.
my friends, yeah. So
So I walk you online. You are. I mean, were you on debate team or something in like school?
I should have been. So to me, debating and arguing, like lots of times I'll take a side that I don't necessarily agree with, because that, it's almost like it's where the rubber meets the road, and you can throw an idea out there and test it against other people. And that's the best way to learn, right? So like with the debate, I didn't think it was that heated of a debate, and, the decorum probably wasn't the best, but man, in a lot of ways, like when you get two people that have different views, sometimes it devolves into that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even with friends, man, like, so, maybe I don't come off as cocky, but my friends certainly think I do. And I have a problem, same thing, listening, right? And interrupting and trying to be too forceful with my ideas.
Well, a lot of times, so how old are you?
I just turned 41.
Yeah, you'll comment with age.
Well, I've gotten so much better.
Yeah. You'll
Right?
even get better. You know what you'll do is I love to go on at night when I see somebody that, I like taking on even people that have got the same opinion of me, but they're loudmouths.
Yeah.
I love to set a nuclear bomb off right before they go to bed. And just so you know. I mean, I know that's wicked, but I mean, it's you'll get more tactical as you get older. Does that make sense? And you're a smart guy, so you're gonna.
No, I'm getting definitely becoming more tactical. But it's not easy to do in the social media world, right? Like we all have opinions and want to kind of say what we think and influence other people. But as a business owner, you have to be careful about what you say and who you say it to. And
I got this thing
when you're testing ideas, like I would love to be completely free with, throwing out whatever idea, but it can be dangerous to your business.
Yeah, no, me too. It's the same way. And unfortunately, some people do that are entrepreneurs, and it's dangerous. It's really.
But there's a huge fine line that you have to continue to navigate. And it's one of these things where I don't think there's no best answer. Nobody has the right answer on how to handle all this stuff. You can see even the top candidates for president have no idea where the line is drawn. They've crossed it ridiculous.
Well, hey, let's talk about something that hit me last night.
Yeah.
Was, we just went to our first live event. We had 30 plus people there. It was strange because it was so new. I actually, to get up and speak in front of 30 people, normally that'd be nothing. I was a little nervous. It was different, but I found what you just keyed off of what you said earlier. See, I'm listening. That the need for connection that night, that was Monday night, was massive. People were dying to get close to each other, and not like in a physical way, but even in that way, I didn't see. I mean, there wasn't a lot of people wearing masks. There wasn't a lot of. I'm not going to judge anybody. I'm not going to say how I feel or don't feel about that. Everybody's got a different opinion. But the communication was hungry. Does that make sense? People 100%, were hungry to sit across from each other and talk, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And so I hope that we can get that going. Now, the thing that was different is, what I heard? Now, a lot of where we were, it was Latinos. I'm going to say that probably 70% of them were immigrants. And the message of the day was, we are so busy, we can't handle it. So where these candidates are saying that blue collar is suffering, I'm sure there's industries that are. But hey, man, right now, to me, if, man, there's a lot of people there's some people making money.
No, I agree. I mean, my business is going gangbusters, better than it's ever done. And just talking to detailers out there across the board, like people are just busier than ever. I don't know how to explain it necessarily. I think it might just be too complicated, but
You know, even
we kind of have to ride that wave, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Now, has your buying habits, spending habits changed in the last 6 months? Personally?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like we used to go out to dinner a lot more often. We would go to sporting events, baseball games, and
Are you replacing that with other things though? I mean,
you know, yeah, in some respects, right? So like I like my hobby is music, so I bought like a couple extra guitar pedals and
yeah.
right. So because that's what I'm spending more time doing is, you know, practicing my hobbies. So
And that reminds me, I got an idea. You and I offline need to talk. I got
yeah,
an idea about music. You know, ours has too. It's like you know, we were looking at getting an RV. Well, that's interesting because they
yeah,
went from having overflow of RVs to where, you know, the most desirable ones are gone. You can't even
yeah,
get. And then to set up arrange if the RV area is open, to get a spot is almost impossible.
yeah,
You know, San Diego, I don't know if you're seeing it down there, but in Big Bear, you were just up here.
yeah,
You know, stores that sold 20 kayaks last year sold 60 or 80 this year.
yeah,
Our town is flooded with people, and they're spending money. Even, I mean, the restaurants, yeah, they're hurting, but you know, our own buying habits, like you, we're not, you know, not naturally, trips are down. We're not going anywhere that way. We're not going out to dinner as much, which is actually, we've learned to enjoy it. You know,
yeah,
we go back and support our local restaurants when we can. But, you know, we're saving, we're having concrete work done right now. You know, we're buying things, we're doing home improvement projects. So all that spending is happening. So I don't agree with I didn't agree with some of that put out last night that everybody's hurting and we're in a recession. I think we're bouncing back super fast.
yeah. I think a lot of people are. And the same thing too for our business, right? So business is good. And so we've been investing in ways to become more efficient. A big part of our business is just being efficient, you know, shipping out products and receiving products. So we've reorganized our warehouse completely. We're, you know, adding new, like, you know, giant ladders to reach the tops of the pallet racks, and talking about getting pallet wrapping machines. And
Good for you.
so really, I mean, any way that we can spend money to become more efficient, that's what I've been looking at a lot. So, and it's improved our business, right? So it's an opportunity, right? We could sit back and kind of like stack our acorns or whatever, and we're doing that too. But you also have to spend to become more productive.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. So let's go back in line. So
Yeah.
how long have you been in business?
So I started in 2001, right when I got out of college. So I just turned 41 and I got out of college in 2001. I was 21 and I wanted to start a business because I had no idea how business worked. Like I didn't understand what people did at an office all day or out on the job, even though I'd had jobs, right? Like I worked in a restaurant since I was 14. My parents were entrepreneurs and had a print shop, and I worked in their print shop. So I always
know that. Wow.
Yeah. So
a family of business owners.
Yeah. So my dad, like, just kind of ingrained into me all the virtues of entrepreneurship. So,
wow.
And it really is, he's the reason that I even have this specific business, because he was one of the first people in America selling microfiber. So I remember the first day when he came home, it was like 1995 or something, and I was in like 10th grade, and he was like, this miracle towel, microfiber. He was like so gung-ho about it. And he started a whole business. And that's kind of, so when I got out of college, it was 2001, September 11th happened. Like the economy was kind of shaky ground. I couldn't find a job. So I bought a couple cases of microfiber, built a website, started selling on eBay. And because I knew I wanted to start, like this was the beginning of e-commerce, right? So I wanted to, I knew that was where, the future was. And so I just started, and it just kept growing and growing. It's still to the, people still ask me, friends from that I haven't seen in 10 years, they're like, are you still selling towels? Like,
Hey, isn't it funny how, you look back and I've got 13 years on you.
Yeah.
You look back, we watched a revolution happen with online. I mean, literally. And it's funny because when I saw it happening, I knew at some point back in 97, I was like, okay, I got to jump in on this, or whatever we're doing, we've got to take it. This is going to where it's going to go that direction. So flash back to that. Do you remember the first time you touched a microfiber towel?
Oh yeah.
Sensation.
Absolutely. It was probably 95 in 10th grade when my dad brought it home. He was like, and we thought he was crazy, right? So this is another, we just kind of laughed at him. He wanted me to help with the business. And even all through college, he was trying to get me to help with it. And I was kind of, the crazy thing is, it wasn't used in automotive at all at that time. People were scared of the product because it's polyester, right? Polyester had a bad name. Everyone was into like Egyptian cotton towels, and so
Huck towels were big back then.
Yeah, Huck towels. Yep.
So how has business changed? Go back to the early part of the decade. Let's go back to 2004, 2005, in that time frame. It seemed like 08, right before 08, and 08 happened, and a lot of people think that 08 got stagnant. I think there's a lot that went on that it's like a coffee pot that percolated. And I think that we got creative on how to survive and stuff. But go back over and let's talk about business back before 08 and then business now, and how things have changed for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot has changed. Number one, I've changed more than anything, just from learning and getting experience, right? Because when I started, I had pretty much zero experience and had no idea what I was doing. I kind of, looking back, maybe I was like a baby that was thrown in a pool and had to figure out how to swim, right? So a lot of times I feel like I barely survived. Number one, it's easier to do a lot of things now. The technology's gotten better. So I can't tell you how many different versions of websites I've built, and it's just so much easier to do now. So from a technology perspective, it's way easier. And there's just so many other services out there. And then detailing's become way more advanced than it was, like just the explosion of products.
Do you think it's become easier or more difficult?
For detailing? Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably become easier once you get past a certain threshold of understanding. But I think that to start with, there's way more information out there. So you have to wade through a bunch of BS, like to find what is real and true. And there's a lot of misinformation. So I think, one of the best parts about detailing is that the barrier to entry is low, and there's all this information out there to learn. But it's a double-edged sword, because it can be, it's hard there's just too much to know. And there's too many options. And so a lot of times there's, and I get this all the time, paralysis by analysis, right? So people are like trying to decide between the best sealant or coating or towel or whatever. And in a lot of ways, you can't learn that stuff by reading on the internet. You have to actually use the products, test them, and evaluate and gain that knowledge yourself. So in that way, it's more difficult. So when it comes to microfiber, it's become easier, right? So back in the beginning, we were trying to convince detailers and automotive enthusiasts and everyone that it was a better product. Now that is not part of the equation at all. That's just, we don't have to convince anyone that microfiber is what we need to use. So,
well, speaking of that, I mean, you're very innovative. We've got, matter of fact, I owe you a conference call. You've got some great products that you've been on the cutting edge of designing and coming out with.
yeah.
That are really amazing. And so what competition? You know, a lot of people are, you know, they hate their competition or they're afraid of their competition.
I love my competition. I love the competition.
Why?
And in some ways, because in certain ways, like you try to make it so that there is no competition. Even though I like the competition, like I cannot compete with the rag company in terms of like the media that they create and the message that they send. Like for me to try to compete with that, it would take all my time and effort, and I just don't have the same skill set that they have. So in that respect, you know, my competition isn't my competition because I'm not trying to compete with them on that level.
Huge.
So I'm trying to compete, you know, in terms of, you know, coming up with innovative products, right? So I feel like that's my edge, is the fact that I've been around these products for so long, microfiber, and dealing with detailers, that I have an edge in, you know, creating new products. So I kind of feel like, you know, my business is kind of like, and me, I'm kind of like a conduit between the detailers and the factories that are, you know, in the whole production system of creating microfiber products.
I dig that.
So so I feel like, you know, and everyone's going to catch up, right? It's like a cat and mouse game, but at this point, I feel like there isn't really competition for me, you know, trying to create and innovate new and better products.
You know, it's funny, the group on Monday night, I told them the same thing. I said, listen, there is no more secret sauce.
Yeah.
He's got their own secret sauce. And I said, you know, you guys think that, oh, I'm not going to talk to the other detailer because, you know, he's going to learn my secrets. Well, no, he's not. You know, I mean, things that you're going to keep close to your chest. There's other things that you're going to openly talk about.
Yeah.
But, you know, the biggest thing is just by you having respect for your good competition, as you obviously do, I think it just helps propel both of you, you know, to new levels.
100%. And plus, like, so even through the history of my business, some of my best customers were my competition to begin with. So even before the rag company came around, I made a decision a long time ago not to fight with my competition and try to bring them in and try to, you know, either make them my customers. And sometimes I buy from my competition, right? So, you know, there's healthy competition, and then there's also, you know, cooperation. And if you can make both of those work in parallel, it's just better for the business. And plus, you're not there's a lot of wasted energy worrying about competition or thinking that your competition, you know, trying to hide from your competition. I need to spend my energy coming up with ways that I can make my business better, right? And make better products and make myself better. So
what have you gotten right in business? Name something that you've gotten right.
So man, the number one thing is I never gave up, right? So when I have made mistakes or failed, like I just never quit, right? So I think that's kind of why people are surprised, like people that I've known that, you know, you're still selling towels on the internet. It's kind of just a goofy thing. But it turned out, and it's turning out well. So, and to me, like I am constantly trying to learn. So, so I've been able to evolve with the changing industry and the changing just economic conditions. So one of the best things I did was switching from like a product focus to more like focusing on the brand and the idea and the marketing. Because in a lot of ways, like I used to we were just trying to sell microfiber, right? But there's something deeper behind it. And that's kind of the idea with Autofiber, was to create a brand that people attached to the products. Because in the beginning, like, great, we had great products, better, quality or whatever we would say than everyone else, because we have always been quality focused. But to convey that message is hard, right? Because there's been an explosion of different types of microfiber. So, 10 years ago, we would come out with a product that was really good, innovative, and then other companies would copy it, but they would make an inferior version, but it would look exactly the same and feel exactly the same. But then when you got to use it, so there's no way for the customers to differentiate, what is quality from not. And so when I saw that happening like over and over again, that's when I really decided to put a lot of effort into the brand of Autofiber, which is something bigger than just the product, right? So I kind of think of the brand and the business as its own product, right? Like Autofiber is a product that someday, maybe 10, 20, 30 years, I can sell that brand, and it's also an asset to the business, right? So not only are the products an asset of the business, and the designs, and the physical inventory that we have, like those are assets on the balance sheet, right? But as we build the brand into a name that people in the industry understand and recognize, there's actually a value to that goodwill of that brand.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, have you, I'm gonna lead in with this question by giving you an example. And this, we didn't talk about this. So, when I came back into detailing, when I started detailing when I was a kid, I was so proud because I was self-employed. A lot of my friends were out busting their butts at fast foods, jobs, and that sucked, to me. I mean, hey, they're working. I appreciate that, but it just wasn't for me. But then when I got older and I bounced back into detailing, there was a part of me that was ashamed of it. There was a part of me that was ashamed to tell people I was a detailer. So I started coming up, and it actually helped me build our brand and our business, and I think make an impact in the industry, because I came up with other things to do. Because when people would ask me, hey, what do you do? Instead of saying a car detailer, back then it was like, it wasn't a good thing. We were scumbags,
Yeah.
And so I'd say, I make cars perfect. I'd come up with different things. Has there ever been a time that, like, when people ask you, what do you do? And you're like, I really don't want to tell them I sell towels.
Oh man, when I was younger, like in the early days, so it's kind of funny because it was awesome to be like in my early 20s, going out to the bars, coming home and checking my email and seeing that I got orders, right? Like I'm out partying with my friends and I'm getting orders, right? But it was also, there was a problem for me because, when you're out at the bar, people are like, what do you do? And it was hard to explain, look, I sell towels on the internet. So sometimes, I was kind of ashamed of it in a certain respect, because it wasn't like, towels just aren't a very glamorous thing.
Right.
But
so I get past that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I got past it it took me a long time to get past it. Part of it was, just getting more comfortable with myself and realizing that I was kind of on a road that other people didn't understand, right? Not having a corporate job. Man, but how did I necessarily get past it? I think in a lot of ways,
maybe success, maybe making a living.
I mean, so here's the thing too, I'm pretty successful. The business keeps growing like 20% a year. But I still feel like I'm not fully successful. Like I had a friend ask me the other day, or we were talking about business. He's a business owner. And I was like, look, man, I feel like I'm at like 25% capacity, maybe, of my full potential. So man, the upside for me is huge. But man, how did I get, because now like I'm happy to come to work every day. Like I'm proud of the business I've built. Yeah, so I'm excited about it all. And I think a lot of it was, so there's this book called Start With Why. I don't know if you've ever heard of this book.
Yeah, we talked about that when you're up here.
Yeah. So that book kind of changed my framework on it. I had to search deep, like, why am I in this business, right? Rather than just selling towels, or microfiber. And really, like when I go back and think about it, what I wanted to, when I was a kid, like I wanted to be an inventor. Like I would see those invention infomercials like Invent Now or whatever. And I would be like, I wanted to know how people invented stuff. And so, man, every day I spend at least 10 or 20 minutes, like cutting up pieces of microfiber and trying to come up with drawing pictures to come up with new solutions to problems, and coming up with having the factory make samples, or even me hacking together something to test. So I'm constantly searching for new ideas. And really, when it comes back to it, that was like I'm fulfilling my deep childhood desire to like be an inventor.
That's cool. Hey,
Yeah.
Funny story. This is a great story to share with people. So I'm a young man. I just sold a business and I went to work for corporate America. And I meet a gentleman, and he was older, and he was wise, and he was interesting, and he was loaded. I mean, loaded. So we were in the environmental industry, and he owned 5 gas stations here in Southern California. I mean, really nice Shell gas stations. And we were looking at doing all the replacement for the Superfund and cleaning his sites up. But he had a boodle. His next door neighbor was Ronald Reagan at the time. So that tells you the kind of money he had. He had a ranch right next, it literally butted up next to Reagan's ranch. So I kept asking him, man, where'd you make your money? And he said, I pushed ice cream. That's all he keeps saying to me is he pushed ice cream. So Diane and I are at his 85th birthday, and his son's there. And I said, every time I talk to your great family, I said, every time I talk to your dad, I ask him, I'd love to learn. He's given me so much information on being a man and being an entrepreneur, but he keeps telling me he pushed ice cream to make it. And he goes, you don't know the story? And I went, no. And he goes, let me tell you the story. And this is where don't ever be ashamed of what you do, was the moral of the story. Because here's what he did. He gets off the boat in World War II. And he gets off the boat at Long Beach, and he hasn't had an ice cream in 3.5 years. So he goes looking for an ice cream. Well, he goes up to this place, he buys an ice cream, and he has an idea. He says, if I had to come find this ice cream, what if I took ice cream down to the docks where there's tens of thousands of service members coming off the boats every single day, and sold them an ice cream? So he went back and built a bike and attached a ice chest to it, and he bought ice cream at that place for wholesale. So he went back down to the dock the next day, and he said within 20 minutes he was sold out of his ice cream bars. So he rode the bike back, went back again. Well, make a long story short, he decided, hey man, I can turn this into a business. So the next couple of days he went back and he built 3 more bikes. We went back down, and he was selling his ice cream, and he would look for people that knew how to communicate, that talk. And he'd say, hey, how would you like a job? And they say, doing what? Selling ice cream. So he got other GIs to go back and ride the bikes down the docks as the GIs were coming off, selling them ice cream. Well, he became so successful, pretty soon he bought that ice cream shop within months.
Yeah.
Well, then within a year, he bought the ice cream company, and he was pretty much the inventor of ice cream trucks.
Yeah. And so that kind of reminds me of the McDonald's story a little bit. Like, was he really in the ice cream bit? Because he started selling ice creams, but then he had to make bikes, right? So then he got into the bike business, and then he got into the truck delivery business, right? So was he really Was it really an ice cream business?
Amen. It's just the same way. Are you really a towel business?
No,
I mean,
no, not really. Like more, we're kind of like a tech business, right? I kind of think of it in those terms. Because man, we use so much different software and technology. Like the whole business is built on a whole structure of
it's huge.
internet technology.
Yep, it's huge. Without that, you wouldn't be, you wouldn't be where you're at.
No,
I always
not at
tell
all.
people when they're here, when I'm talking to them, I'm coaching them. Listen, man, the U factor in everything's marketing. The best-selling book on Amazon is not the best written book; it's the best marketed book.
Yeah.
Simple as that. So,
Yeah.
what have you gotten wrong in business? How'd you fix it?
What I've gotten wrong was kind of the opposite of what I've gotten right. Like on a lot of good ideas, I quit too soon because they were not being successful. So like I've lacked follow through. Like, so for example, I started the first Autofiber, man, I bought that domain in like 2002. And I built a website. Like you can go back into the Wayback Machine on the internet and see like the first Autofiber site from 2003. And I just didn't follow through. So imagine like how much more market share I'd have and how much more well-known the brand would be if I had to like follow through with that project through that time.
Why didn't you follow through?
So, so the way the business was going, like I just started. So really when I was trying to sell towels, I actually wasn't trying to start a towel business. I was trying to start like a web design business. So I built a couple different websites. But the towel thing, like it was right at the beginning of microfiber. I was selling a lot of towels. It was crazy to be selling towels night and day, shipping out orders every day. And so the business just grew so fast that the wholesale part of the business just started to take over. And I didn't want to compete with my customers, where in retrospect, it was just a huge blunder, right? To worry about that factor. And I kind of like outsmarted myself or whatever and made a really bad decision. So I would say that was the number one mistake. Number two was it took me way too long to start hiring people and outsourcing the work. Like even up to a couple of years ago, I was shipping orders, working forklifts, unloading containers, answering all the phones. Like I was just trying to do.
Today it's so easy to outsource a lot of things. I tell people, one of the biggest hiccups with entrepreneurs is the financial side of things.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, man, hey man, that's what CPAs are for. That's what bookkeepers are for.
Oh man, I can't tell you how many hours I have used to spend at the end of the year, like literally like 100 hours I would waste trying to do all that work myself.
Right. So,
and in certain ways, like doing that kind of work, for a couple of years, you get a good understanding. But it becomes hard to, if you get too deep in that type of work that isn't really focused on your business, it gets harder and harder to like pull yourself out of it and start to give control of it to somebody else.
The corporation I work for is a great company, and I had never had a like a job. And my boss, I was director of business development, and we'd go into the financial planning meetings, and he wouldn't let me in. And I was like, oh, butthurt, because I wanted to go. I mean, I was a big part of that, right? And so one day I said, hey man, why am I not allowed in these meetings? He goes, you are Wyatt Earp. You're a gunslinger. You're not a caretaker. If you see the dead bodies and what we have to do to them and how we have to distribute those dead bodies, you won't go out and kill people as quickly.
Yeah.
And more of the story is that I was in the business of bringing money in, not watching the money go out. He wanted me nowhere near where that money went out, because the illusion is, if you look at the fine numbers, is you get a little depressed if you're the moneymaker. I agree with you. I think that the knowing your numbers is absolutely huge. I don't want to have people misunderstand. I get reports every day is my request for reports every day.
Yeah.
I want to know where we're at in our financial. It's the pulse, the heart rate. It's all the vitals that a doctor or an EMT or a paramedic would look for.
Yeah.
But once you get successful, like where you're at right now, listen, you're not even to that level. Once you're confused on your finances, hire a CPA, hire a bookkeeper. It's not that expensive.
Yeah.
Now, CPA should be your best friend. They'll keep you out of hot water.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've had a CPA. I have multiple bookkeepers. I have one that's focused that's just a specialist in the one software we use. That's like our main database software. And then we have, my mom is actually like the day-to-day bookkeeper, entering information into QuickBooks and, sending emails out. So even within something like bookkeeping, sometimes you have to have multiple different, people. So we have a day-to-day bookkeeper, kind of like a month-to-month, week-to-week bookkeeper, and then we have the CPA who helps us with taxes and then helps answer, complicated questions. And I tell you what, we're still learning and changing and changing the way we do everything all the time.
Well, and I'll tell you, every time there's an administration change, new taxes come in, the tax laws are so confusing. There's just no way that you got to be very careful. You get yourself in hot water real quick. So what's the best piece of business advice or personal advice, anything that's related back to your business? What's the best thing that you've either heard or been told?
The best one I've heard is to focus on process rather than goals. So I've switched to I have goals and targets to hit, but I'm not focused on those. I'm more focused on, so the way I look at it is the goal kind of sets the target, and then you come up with a process and you follow that process. And because sometimes, you can come up with a really good process and you just get unlucky and you don't hit the goal, right? And then you think your process is bad, where your process was actually good and you were just unlucky for whatever reason. And then the opposite is true too. Sometimes you could have your goal and have a really bad process and you can hit your goal by accident. So the way I look at it is I try to come up with a process for something, and then I try to iterate it over multiple times and then try to gather information and intelligence based on that. Because in a lot of ways, I have gone down the wrong path because I've accidentally hitting goals, right? I just with a bad process. So
you ever take and wish for something and want to have it happen? You're going to build this part of your business up, and you build it up and you go, oh shit, what did I do that for?
Right. Yeah.
It's like, that's not where I wanted to go. Right.
Yeah.
You and I geek out on books every time we're together. One of the first things we talk about, how important is reading for not just an entrepreneur, but for a person?
Oh, it's huge for me. I mean, we're so lucky that all that information's out there. All these people have learned all these lessons that we can learn from. So, but the thing too is though, sometimes when it comes to books, you can overload yourself with information and then not take action, right? And I think we see this happening a lot with the YouTube situation. You can go learn, watch somebody polish a car on YouTube and then think you have the knowledge, but you really don't have it till you put it to work. So look, I read a lot of books and I actually listen to a lot of books more nowadays, audiobooks on my drive. And I try to put some of the information to work because you really don't learn. I mean, you learn stuff from reading, but you really don't learn until you're actually physically like implementing something.
Now it's, you bring up a great point, because what I've tried to do, like I just started the book that you gave me when you're up here.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm slow to do that is because I just finished the other one I'm going to send you, or I'm going to bring down to you. The reason why is now I've put a little bit of gap in between books so I can put what I learned into action.
Yeah.
Because what I learned as I was reading, listening, and I was never putting into practice all these ideas I had.
Absolutely. So that's why that book that I gave you is one of the more influential ones for me. It's because it actually has a process for implementation, right? Like it actually tells you, take these sticky notes and put them in these quadrants to understand. So it creates a whole framework. So what this book is, it's a book about kind of building a business plan, and it has it's called the Business Model Canvas, right? So what it does, and so one of the main things that it taught me was that the product is only a small part of the business, right? There's this whole, it's just one little quadrant area of the business. And, there's your vendor relationships, your customer relationships, your value proposition, right? There's, and then there's all the different aspects of your business, whether it's accounting and bookkeeping, or, marketing and sales and customer service. So, man, to me, the product part of the business is like 10% of the business. And the same thing for detailing, really. Like detailing, the detailing part is kind of the easy part. Like I can't imagine, like, detailing is such a skills based, especially when you get into the higher end. And these guys that have like, dozens of employees, or even, a couple employees, to try to keep employees, working at a high level, in such a perfection based industry. Like if I got thrown into it, I wouldn't be good at managing that type of situation. But that there's a lot of detailers, and I've got a lot of customers out there that have shops that have, multiple employees, and they're very successful. So it can be done. But I do know that talking to a lot of these shops, how hard it is, right? And the same thing happened with my business. Hiring the first employees was very difficult. Hiring the first 3 or 4 employees was difficult. And then we just got better and better at it. And now we have a system in place for hiring new employees.
Well, we were just talking about this. We're up at the PNS at the manufacturing facility in Hayward, Northern California. And your culture, I mean, it's pretty amazing. I went through the factory. We've got a new program we're starting. It's pretty cool. And I was talking to all the forklift drivers and the guys making the products and the guys shipping. And the newest person was there was two guys that were 2 years. Another one was 3 years. Then it jumped up like 7, but the majority were 10 to 28 years.
Wow.
And it says a lot about your culture. It says a lot about your core values. It says a lot about kind of what you develop as a workplace. Everybody thinks about money when they hire. Listen, you got to be 2,000% vested into hiring somebody. You've got to be ready for that. You've got to be able to pay it the right amount. You've got to be able to legitimize it, meaning don't bring on that whole bullshit on 1099 contractors. Man, if we had to go through that again and tell people, if you're listening, you don't know, and you've hired on a 1099 contractor and you're in a service business, it's most likely illegal. I got bad news for you. There's some parameters. We'll get into that on another discussion, but until you're ready to hire those people on and make it legitimate and pay them well, give them benefits, give them a really good work environment, until you're the man or the woman, a good boss, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
It's 100% tough. And the first employee is extremely tough. Even if you do good hiring, like it took us years to figure it out and to be comfortable with it, and to come up with resources, right, to help the employees. And we've hired bad people, people that were toxic to the culture. But, you know, going through those pains, we've kind of come out the other end, and now we have a really good team of guys. And
your mom, how cool is that?
yeah, my mom, you know, my sister works for me too. My sister pretty much runs the business.
Really?
Yeah, she does all the day-to-day work. She's doing all the stuff that I used to do, you know, talking to customers, writing up orders, you know, customer service.
That's awesome.
So it's been huge for me to have good people that, you know, care about the work, and, you know, they all make pretty good money. And man, I'm willing to pay so much more for a good employee that's going to, you know, solve problems. So this is one thing that I've run into is like at the beginning, you know, if you start to micromanage somebody, and I don't understand, like, I think it's going to be very difficult in detailing to not micromanage somebody, but it becomes a burden when you're like trying to overmanage somebody and then they can't make any decision on their own. Like every decision, they're coming back to you, right? And in a lot of ways, it was my fault for overmanaging. But now I've got people and they all understand, like, it's okay if they make a mistake, right? So if somebody makes a mistake, as long as they learn from the mistake, that mistake can pay dividends in the long run, because now they've learned from the mistake. They know we've come up with a thought process to solve the problem, and now they never have to come back to me with the problem. So at the beginning, like I used to get mad and upset if somebody did something wrong, and now it's like there's no upside to getting angry or right. No. There's just no way, you know. And the world's different now, right? Like people just aren't as accepting of a toxic workplace.
No.
Right? So
so
I would say we actually kind of have a toxic workplace, like even like 5 or 6 years ago when I was first learning to hire people. But now everyone here is happy and we're very calm. There's never fights. No one ever raises their voice. If there's a mistake, we fix it and we move on and improve. So
what, so all this business, you're a busy guy. I hate the word busy, but I mean, you're very productive. What do you do to escape all that? What's some of your escapes?
So music is the number one thing for me. I've always liked music. I've got a minor. What's that?
What type of music?
Man, I like all kinds of music. I like electronic music. I like rock, reggae, rap. Like I like classical music.
Mm-hmm.
So I
love opera.
Yeah, you know, opera is actually one that I'm not a huge fan of, but I can tell you that I actually went right after I got out of college. I went and traveled in Europe, and I went to a couple operas. And when it's in person, it's amazing.
It's unreal.
Unreal, right? Yeah. Just the skill level and the story, right? So I was watching Italian operas, and you know, you can laugh and cry without understanding the language at all. It's amazing.
So how important is it to get that escape time? You know, when you're an entrepreneur and everything's going on, can you tell a difference when you haven't had enough you time?
Oh, absolutely. So for me, I mean, a lot of what I do now for the business is creative stuff. So I'm like trying to be creative, you know, solving problems of coming up with new products, or whether it's like building website stuff to market and sell the products. So a lot of the work I'm doing now takes a lot of creativity, and you only have so much mental capacity to do that in a day, or even, so my mental state, like most people, fluctuates. Like sometimes I'm just high on life and I've got all these ideas flowing, and then other times I'm like, man, I can't solve any problem, I'm tired, I can't get it done. And so yeah, I mean, sometimes just taking a break, going for a walk, playing music. So let me put it this way. Like I'm at my desk most of the day, but I usually don't, like this right here, this conversation will be the longest that I sit at the desk. I get up every 10 or 15 minutes, whether it's to go walk, to look out the window, or to grab a drink of water, or to wash my hands or something. Like even if I'm doing like a menial, like data entry task, I will stop every 10 or 15 minutes, even just for a couple minutes. So, but yeah, even on a longer time frame, like on the weekends, I don't answer any messages, even if I'm working, right? Like I don't answer any Facebook or Instagram or text messages. I pretty much just don't even look at them during the weekend.
Yeah, you have to have that time away. So if you could share one piece of advice with entrepreneurs, what would it be?
Man, I would say just keep grinding it out and don't give up on yourself, and keep testing. So I kind of think of my business as it's kind of like a science experiment, right? So you come up with a hypothesis, and then you kind of test that, and then you analyze the results. It's kind of, have you ever heard of an Uta Loop?
Yes.
OODA.
Yeah.
What is it? It's observe, orient, OOD, decide, and act, right? It's actually like a military thing, right? So I think for entrepreneurs and building a business, like lots of people have these questions about, how should I price, this service or this product or whatever, or customers detailers complain about their customer complaining about the price. And so they kind of like race to the bottom in price. And I feel like you should always be testing and modifying your pricing and adjusting your marketing and the value, how you're conveying the value to your customer. So I feel like all those things should be changed and modified, and people look for advice from other detailers across the country. And lots of times that advice doesn't apply. It's even true, like even in my, niche of the industry with microfiber, like my customers are different than the rag company's customers, or, whoever else is selling towels out there. Like even when we have discussions, like there's certain nuances that are different with our customers.
Absolutely. You've got a lot of shared customers that might buy something from you, but buy something from them. And they, we had one of our customers, really, she was the first female to ever own an H1 Hummer. She sold Schwarzenegger his house up in Sunville, Idaho. Schwarzenegger signed the dash of the Hummer, but she used two of us. She used ourselves and Carl's Ultra Shine. So I asked her one day, I said, why do you use both of us? And she goes, because both of you are very reputable, and I want to show support for the companies in the community that I like. And I thought that was cool that she made sure to give us both enough business every year. We got the Hummer, the other guy didn't, by the way. So, we did have the edge. But you know what? I appreciated that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Matter of fact, one day she says, oh man, she goes, I really need the Audi done. Carl's a little backed up. Should I have you do it? And I said, no, wait for Carl. He's a good guy. You know what I'm saying? Because I admired.
That's actually right. So that is one of the best sales techniques ever, is to, when you can kind of like let your customer go and say, hey, look, like the competition might be a little bit better at this than me. Like that creates so much. Uh-oh, did I lose you?
Nope, you're good. You're good.
All right, cool. Yeah. So they creates a lot like trust. So I have always tried to be as truthful as possible with my customers. And there's been times when I've been on the, like I've had customers call looking for a specific product. And after talking to them, they're looking for, you know, the rag company's specific towel. And I'm like, oh, like, and I'll take them to the rag company website and show them the product and be like, look, you know, buy from them. They're a great company. Same thing. Like I've had microfiber madness products, you know, any of the, you know, towel pros, you know, people, because lots of times customers get confused about who they're calling, you know, calling a microfiber company.
We just had our student that was here last week, a week ago, they're training, and I saw him Monday night, and he goes, look, I've got an opportunity to go train with XYZ company. And he goes, what do you think? And he says, it was already included in a package I bought for another training. And I said, dude, why wouldn't you? It's more knowledge. And he goes, really? Yeah. I said, why wouldn't you, man? You're going to pick something out of everything that you do. And if you've already got the time allotment, it's already paid for, you've got to go pick up that knowledge, man. There's going to be at least fairy dust or some silver dust, if not some nuggets in there, gold nuggets. Go pick them up.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not threatened by somebody else's business. When, matter of fact, I am so scared of what we do, you know? Uh-oh, we did lose him a little bit there. Now we lost you a little bit. So let's see if, Ian, are you there? Let's see if we can get you back. Is he locked up?
I'm losing something.
Uh-oh, he's locked up.
Yeah,
Chris, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You there?
I gotcha. We're a little locked up, but
oh boy, yeah. Okay.
I can hear
you, Renny.
How do people connect
the
with
video,
social media, and if they want to
the voice?
We lost.
You can find me on Facebook, Instagram.
Chris, did we lose him? Well, hey, let's wrap this up. Email me, connection at any time. But Ian, it's a pleasure to take it. Cool, right on, Ian. Hey, for some reason we got a bad connection, but good talking to you, my friend. And you take care. And it's always a pleasure. We'll be down your direction soon, and we'll do this again live down at your place.
Awesome, bro. I appreciate it.
Oh, you guys seem to be back.
Yeah, I'm back. So, hey, you are. So if people want to reach out to you, let's go back over this. If people want to reach out to you, how do they do it? People are going to want to connect with you.
Yeah. So, you know, you can find Autofiber and me on Facebook, Autofiber on Instagram, Ian at Autofiber if you want to email me, and autofiber.com is the website. So I'm pretty open to, like, if you email me, I'll respond. So email is definitely the best for me.
We've got some really initial. We needed this week. I've got to drive up to base Thursday mid-afternoon. Maybe if you've got time, let's talk about the products that you left behind. I got a lot of great input. We've been testing them out and stuff. So if you guys want innovative products, I mean, this guy's a great company, great man, great support of the industry. You know what I like about Ian? I'm going to do a little bragging before we leave. He sees the good in people. He really does. I've watched him take people and friends of his that he's made in the industry, and he really wants. We always talk about different people in the industry, and he's a builder. He's not a stripper. He's not a grenade. He's a rocket. He wants people to take and excel in business. And I love seeing that. I love seeing that he's very honest.
Man, I can tell you that some of the best customers I have and the best relationships have come from a product failure, right? So like we had a product that had a defect or a linting towel or something, and because we decided not to fight with the customer over it and send them replacements or come up with a better solution for their product. So a lot of, and I learned this early in business, that a lot of the best relationships and customers actually come from a dispute. And I've even found this out with dealing with, microfiber factories overseas. Like when we first started this, we've gone through dozens and dozens of different factories, like just ordering small orders, and we filtered out the ones that didn't stand by their products and didn't stand by the manufacturing and would make excuses. So I'm not gonna act like companies that I don't want to do business with, right? So I'm always trying to apply the golden rule and kind of treat people how I want to be treated. And so whenever a mistake happens and somebody blows it, I'm always super forgiving and try to come up with a solution. I'm never gonna, blaming people doesn't really solve anything.
No.
Coming up with solutions is what it does. And I'll tell you what, like people say like we're innovative and everything, but really the innovations come from the customers, right? I'm not a detailer, even though I know how to detail and I know everything about the whole industry. I'm not out there detailing cars every day, using all these new products and everything. And I can't tell you, our customers come to us with problems and come up with different solutions, and we have debates and discussions about it. And that's where all these new and different products come from, is from our customers. They really don't come from me.
No.
So
it's like I tell people when we're training with them, man, I learned something from everybody. The newest, we had a young guy, you'll love this. We had a young guy come through training earlier this month. He's our youngest person ever. He's just getting his driver's license. He came to our Monday night event. He walked away. He's been detailing. He just did we try to rewire people's way of thinking when they get here. And he goes, "Hey man, I just had my first interaction. Get this." He did a single stage correction with coding, $600. Mm-hmm. So as we're sitting there talking, I said, "Okay, well, how long did you have into it?" And he goes, 4 hours. And I looked at the crowd and I said, "Listen, he's going to be 17 in 2 days. He's making $125 an hour. What's your excuse?"
Yeah.
It's everybody wants to limit themselves on what they're worth. Don't.
Yeah.
Hey, Ian, thanks a lot, buddy. Thanks for putting so much back into other people. I appreciate our friendship, and it's always a pleasure to see you. We'll be down in San Diego next month. I'll make sure to take and we'll line it up ahead of time. We'll come down and see you for an afternoon, see the facility.
Yeah.
It's always great chat.
Hey, Renny, real quick. I've had some requests for you to share that book again. Can you hold it up? And
you bet. This is Ian. This is thanks to Ian right there. Ian, you want to tell him about it a little bit again?
And it's here, scoot it over. It's Business Model Generation.
Yes. Yeah. So it's actually kind of it's like what's it called? It's like it comes from the tech industry, and it's a lot about, it's like an agile production technique. So it comes from like the software industry, about how they're constantly like using like a feedback loop to change their products and their systems. But what it does really well is it helps you kind of build a framework for understanding the different parts of your business. And you'll see that the actual detailing part of your business is just a tiny little piece of your business. And there's all these other relationships and all these other ideas that it helps you build out. So the cool thing about it is it's just not reading a book. It actually gives you like step-by-step processes what you do is it's like a framework or a canvas with all these different quadrants in it, and you use Post-it notes to kind of build out and visualize your business. So I knew that Renny would like it because he talks about mind maps, which are things that I use all the time. Like I've got all these pieces of paper. Like I've got a mind map of the different brands in my business, right? So I've got them sitting all over, right? Yeah. I've got them hanging. Like these are actually old ones. We talked about a bunch of this stuff. Like this was from a few years ago of the organization of my business. But the cool thing about the book is it actually has like a specific business framework for organizing your thoughts. Because that, man, for me, and I'm big into thinking and reading and learning and stuff, but organizing thoughts is huge, and using, visual cues for understanding stuff makes a huge difference. So that's why I thought that you would really like that book, and I wanted to show it to you so that I feel like, man, you could use that in all of your trainings.
Oh, it's going to change the way of, I just dove into it, and I'm taking my time with it because, again, I don't want to dive into it till I can put it into practice.
Yeah, it's awesome. What's funny is this is a funny story. So about 10 years ago, I started learning, and golf is another thing that I really like. So when I started learning golf, that's right when I was reading that book, and I actually created a whole, I took it and reframeworked it for learning how to play golf, right? Because there's two sides to golf. There's the internal mental game, and then there's the external game and the strategy game to it. And it's kind of like the same framework for business. So there's a reason why a lot of business owners and business people play golf, is because there's these parallel ways of thinking. And when you have to go through and learn how to play golf. But anyway, it's kind of a side note. I recreated the whole business model framework to help me learn how to play golf, and it really made a huge difference in how I played the game.
I just shared this with our command in the Guard, and we're building a whole new search and rescue program as we speak, and I lead on it. And already what I've learned from it this weekend, we're going to put into practice on building the structure for the next year. So it's an amazing, if you guys want to pick it up, business model generation, name of it. It's huge. I'll bring it back.
Yeah, there's a website too for it. You can even, it even has its own Wikipedia page where you can even learn about it on Wikipedia. And then there's also a course. There's a Udacity course on it.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's a course. If you ever use Udacity, which is like an online learning program, they have a course that helps walk you through. I think there might be a Post-it note on the inside of the front page with the name of the course in there. Is that still there?
Yep, it is.
I've actually, I've given that book to like 4 or 5 different business owner friends to help them build the framework.
You guys, it's a great book. And Chris, I think before I take it down to Ian next month, I'm going to have you read it before I take it back, because it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Might have to shop copies. So, all right, buddy. Well, hey, man, it's always good catching up with you.
Absolutely.
And, we'll see you down in San Diego. If you see Jocko, tell him I said hi.
I will.
All right, guys.
All right, bro.
Hey, happy detailing all. We'll talk to you next time.